It looks like the recording has started, so we are going to begin now. We welcome you for our December 2025 Weatherization and WDR meeting. We're happy to have you all here. And this month, we're going to discuss some updates and reminders, go over any information for the Hancock Mint migration, some WRF updates, um, spinning and production, IJA updates. We'll go over when the next meeting will be held, as well as end with the WDR program. So first, we're going to start with the Weatherization Assistance Program. And for the updates and reminders for DOE 25, amendments are going to be issued. Per DOE, portions of the Financial Assistance Letter 2025-05 and its appendices that implement Policy Flash PF 2025-25 must not be applied until further notice. We hope to have those grant agreements by next week, and then for the new budget categories, as you're spending and submitting your invoices in, just as a reminder to utilize your new categories to help lower the average cost per unit. For LIHEAP, we have been notified that DHCD will release LIHEAP funding on December 16th, which is great news, and DHCD will pay all subgrantees as soon as possible. Oh, and we do have a link when we send out the PowerPoint. You do have a link that you can click for the FAL and the policy flash for reference. And Tim's going to go over the Hancock Cloud migration for us.
Thank you, Michelle. And by the way, that policy flash pertains to the issues of indirect cost caps and so forth. Just due to a court order, DOE has directed all of us not to implement that until further notice. So we're going to pull that from all your grant agreements. That's bottom line. So Hancock Cloud Mint migration. Our go live date is delayed. Originally it was 12th. Well, it's been a lot of dates, I know, but I think it's important we always have a date. Although now we don't have one, and we're going to get one. But the DOE approval package request should be submitted sometime, we believe, before the end of the year. We're close on it. I know Hancock has some software development sprints underway. They're adding an internal duct system calculator and some other good updates. So once we get that, it will be in shape for us to we have to model some sample homes, submit those to DOE for their approval, and and after that, then we can kind of look internally in terms of how we deploy it. I will say the fuel cost and measure library updates in Gen 3, we're going to target those for early January 26th. This implements this affects the migration in that we want to do twin operations, and so we want to have those updated fuel cost and measure libraries in Hancock Cloud as well. So we're going to target kind of the sandbox version of Hancock Cloud and Gen 3 early January for those updates. Twin operations rehearsal will follow that, after those updates. We're hoping we can do this in January. We are going to require and request that everyone submit two completed two Hancock Cloud homes that are concurrent to live Gen 3 homes, right? So that's still a requirement. We talked about that for December, but we're just waiting for it really makes sense first to have the fuel costs and measure library updates in place first, and to work through the current development cycle with Hancock. There's also going to be a user list update requests. That's going to be moved into probably January as well. Just as an update, Hancock trainings are listed there at the link. And, again, I say this every month, but emphasize, we really believe in this software. It's going to be a great upgrade. There's a lot of great things we can do with this in terms of controls, reporting. It'll make it smoother and more seamless to everybody. There certainly will be some rollout issues, but we really, first and foremost, we have these delays because we're committed to supporting a system that will, reasonably smoothly transition and not disrupt invoicing. So that's our concern. So, any questions on those updates? Okay. So I'll turn it over to Jen for, I believe Jen is going to kick us off with some WRF guidance here.
Good morning again, everyone. I'm Jen Maris, the Weatherization Technical Monitor. Along with my colleague, Jose Gravet, we're going to review WRF submittals, Weatherization Readiness Funds submittals. The first part of a successful, submittal would be to conduct a full site assessment, just to help the team have a great picture of what's causing or what you're finding at the site. Capture all the potential watt measures, other programs, other programs like utility programs, capture what you look at the deferral measures to be during the site assessment, or what we call a paper site assessment. And with that, based on what you find in the full site assessment, you can create a work scope, again, to give the team paint a clear picture of what could be causing the deferral. Review, look at other guidance, state plan, the DOE, the LIHEAP plan, the field guide, SWS, and the DOE WPNs, the weatherization program notices as needed. And this will give an opportunity to make sure you can, collect the bids and the estimates from the contractors. The next slide, please. So going forward with successful WRF submittals, complete the initial audit run in HEAT and MET. And as a reminder, measures cannot cause a deferral if they're allowed in the health and safety section of the Virginia State Plan. So this comes up frequently. So just a reminder that if the measures listed in the state plan, it cannot be a reason for deferral. And there are funding limitations with WRF funding. For example, WRF funds is not allowable expense for APCU relief, the average cost per unit relief. Also, leverage dollars, SRR relief, that's not allowable expense with WRF. And no crossover, those measures are allowed with WDR, but not with WRF. Was there a question? I thought I saw a hand up.
Hey, Jen, yeah, I have a question. Real quick about the second bullet, measures cannot be the cause of the deferral if allowable by the health and safety section of the Virginia State Plan. So I wanted to ask a clarifying question in regards to that. So our current, the new state plan really dives into greater detail when it comes to health and safety, and specifically, I'll use electrical, for example. If it's anything over $1,000, that constitutes a deferral. So while electrical repair is allowed, anything over 1,000 would be considered a deferral. So would that qualify that measure to be covered by WRF since it is over the monetary amount?
That's a great question, Megan. Jose is going to pick up the next couple of slides, and we have an example of an electrical repair on the WRF. So if you could just hold up to have Jose do his part, then we can circle back around to that. That would be great.
Okay.
Jose, you up next. Thank you.
And good morning. Main thing clearly lists the why, referencing health and safety plan in why WAP cannot be used. a clear key photo will strengthen documentation. For example, knobbing tuning wiring in excess of $1,000 is a deferral according to Virginia 2025 WAP state plan. Next. Live knobbing tuning wiring was discovered in the attic, wall and crawl space. Replacement of knobbing tuning wiring will exceed 1,000 limit allowable by WAP. In order to safely install insulation on other WAP measure, knobbing tuning wiring must be replaced through the home. Cost to replace knobbing tuning wiring must be included entered and hit. Shingle roof is falling. Several missing shingle on sign of moisture damage to building structure is present. Repair exceed 100 square feet allowable by WAP. Remove old shingle roof, reflash all penetration, and install new shingle roof. Roof is approximately 1,500 square feet. Cost to replace the shingle roof must be included enter and hit. Megan, to come back to your question about the electrical, you have to say why. That's the most important. Why it exceeds the 1,000 DD has an impact on weatherization for the next step.
Gotcha. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Thank you. And maybe I should have waited for this slide. My apologies. One other clarifying question. So when you say the cost to replace the knob and tube or the shingle roof would be included, entered in heat. So I guess my question is, currently we create a second job for WRF, and that WRF measure is listed in that second job. So are we transitioning away from that, or do we still create that second job and have the cost, but we also include it in the weatherization job? I just want to make sure we're clear for the auditors and such.
The first thing is always make your first job as a weatherization.
Right.
From this point, you do your full scopes on everything. For this point, it's a deferral. You find because the financial part is not, or different reasons. And after that, because you meet all the criteria, knobbing tuning exceeding the $1,000, we're not going to charge the WAP. It's not health and safety issue. We cannot charge with health and safety. Now you create your WRF or WDR copy. But we want to make sure we have all the data on the scoping first for us to double check or to make sure everything match the need.
We want to have to assume, Megan. So for example, to say the cost to remove the knob and live, make sure you indicate live, the cost to remove the live knob and tube wiring will exceed the cost of the maximum allowable cost of the average cost per unit. I'm sorry, of the maximum cost allowed in the Virginia WAP plan. That gives a better idea of what's causing the deferral. The cost to remove the live knob and tube wiring will exceed the cost of the maximum allowable by the state plan. So that gives the team a better understanding of why it's being deferred. Does that give a better detail to what to put in? Because this helps us paint a picture.
Absolutely. And definitely, yeah, that makes a lot. I just want to make sure that when it says, the cost to replace should be included and entered in heat. So on the weatherization job, that's the first job that's created and that scope of work is developed. So in that job, the energy savings report, we should have listed knob and tube in that weatherization job with the actual costs. Say we got a contractor and they said it's going to be $3,400 to replace the live knob and tube. You all want to see that measure in the weatherization portion of the job, as well as creating a secondary WRF job with that measure. I just want to make sure we're clear so the auditors understand.
Guy has his hand up, Megan.
Yeah, so basically, Megan, you're still creating that second job for WDR. And when you submit it to us for review, what we want to see is the full weatherization scope of work, because your energy auditor went out there, they've done the site assessment, they've done the energy audit. While you're there, if you notice a deferral, you're supposed to do a full site assessment. If there are multiple deferrals, you're supposed to list all of them to give a path forward. And because you did the full site assessment and you have the list of all the deferrals, if there are multiple deferrals listed, you should have a basic idea or a good understanding of what weatherization measures or potential weatherization measures are going to be installed in that home. So what we're asking is you create both records and you let us know what the potential total package of weatherization measures is, including any of the leverage dollars that may be available for that job. That way you're painting a clear, good picture for us to know exactly what's going on in that home. 'Cause what we're trying to avoid is if, and it has happened to where, sub-grantees go out, they'll list one deferral, they'll go out and they'll do, and they'll do the deferral, then they go out there and try to perform the weatherization work, and they run across something else that exceeds the cost caps, and it's in fact, it was multiple deferrals, but we only addressed one, and then they're trying to resubmit that job again. And it just becomes a tracking nightmare, making sure that we did cover all of those bases. So what we're asking here is a complete package of weatherization measures and the deferral measures that are going into this project or projected to go into this project. We understand that sometimes the funds might be, the funding might change. Let's say it's over program years and utility dollars are now expended. We understand that, but your initial audit runs, when you go out there, you should list your kind of your wish list of the home. Like, this is everything weatherization can throw at it. And you kind of leave it in that state there. And based on your funding sources that are available later, when you actually get to it after the deferrals are addressed, then you can remove those measures based on the funding sources and the funding plan that you have available at that time.
Okay. I think,
Megan?
yeah, I think I totally get what y'all are wanting, a full scope of everything that we would like to do with this home. I just want to make sure where we're listing these measures out appropriately. So weatherization, full scope, and then for WRF, we're creating that second job with any deferral items that we want to use WRF for, specifically WRF, obviously, because that's in Hancock. So this, huh?
Yeah, correct.
Okay.
So,
okay.
Yep.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
It looks like Jack has a question as well.
Yeah, just really quickly. If we were to invoice John Smith that has a knob and tube for $3,000, we are invoicing the original package that includes the measure knob and tube 3,000, and invoicing a duplicate job that has WRF knob and tube removal for $3,000. Just want to.
No, you only invoice the one, the one that the WDR.
So are we saving this as
WRF.
Are we saving it as a energy savings report in WAP docs?
It will fall underneath the one that's the initial audit run, including those that have the SIR below 1. That is your wish list. This is your initial audit run. The energy auditor is tossing everything they can at the energy audit job. At the job.
Thank you.
So again, just for clarification, thank you, Jack, for bringing that up. At the end of the job, would we leave the measure under weatherization and just zero it out? And maybe,
No.
no,
Remove it.
remove it. Okay, okay, gotcha. Thank you.
And it looks like that might be all the questions for WRF right now. If you do have any additional questions, please reach out to our team, specifically the technical team, which would include David, Jose, Jen Mayers, and Jason. We did want to remind people of what we've seen or what is acceptable for WRF with the new DOE funds, which include WRF becoming available. We know you'll be submitting more requests soon and just wanted to provide clarification to hopefully help make it a smooth process. And as a reminder, this year, if you end up not spending your WRF funds and you have it reallocated, you will have some of your DOE admin funds that would need to be returned. In the past, we hadn't implemented that process, but WRF is part of the calculation for your DOE annual formula funds. So just as a reminder, you do want to use your WRF funds, but also if you don't, it will impact your admin. So I just want to make sure that that was restated, and if there's nothing else that the technical team wanted to add on, I'll go to the next next slide. Okay. And then
Hey, Michelle, I have one more
yes.
question. Sorry. Since we were on WRF, this is not technical. This is more. So I know we've had admin associated with WRF, but it's just lumped in with the regular weatherization admin. So when we invoice for a WRF, a job, or a group of jobs, can we invoice admin on that same? No.
So we had heard differing information with WRF when it first came out, and as the grant cycle went through with that first 3-year grant, DOE's clarified more for us how we should have it treated. So with DOE, WRF is really a budget category of DOE. We separate it out in Hancock because for reporting purposes and to make sure it results in a completion of either an ISHA job or a DOE job, we have it as set up as a funding source. So the admin that's associated, just like the other budget categories you have, you don't have admin specifically for the budget category. It's just for that award. So all of your admin for DOE is just going to be invoiced with your DOE 25 invoice or your annual formula fund invoice. WRF is just a budget category. It's only separated for us for reporting purposes.
Okay,
I hope
because
that kind of clarifies.
yeah, and I guess that was one of because now it will look like our admin amount is greater than the typical 5% because of the additional admin that's associated with WRF.
So when the state plan is implemented and the budget's created, it's calculating in the WRF and allowing your maximum percentage there.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. And now that we're starting to close out the 2025 calendar year and entering into 2026, we want to celebrate 50 years of the Weatherization Assistance Program. This program was established in 1976 with Title IV of the Energy Conservation and Production Act. Our campaign objective is to raise awareness of our network and all the tremendous work that you do. So we really want to showcase our subgrantees and everything you do for your clients. So monthly, we're going to be showcasing a subgrantee on our social media, and that's going to begin in January. We will be requesting information from each subgrantee to share. Some of the information we'd like to share would be client success stories with images of the client, subgrantee success stories, and then images of measures being installed. So an overall network email will be sent out from me, hopefully by the end of this week, requesting this information, and we'll outline who will be showcased each month. And then we'll also have some other social media presence as well. And if your organization has social media, we'd recommend you can also share our posts when they're made as well. And then we will be requesting a governor's proclamation for Weatherization Day in October to highlight the Energy Efficiency Month. So we're getting excited. We're running into 50 years. That's a big milestone. So I just wanted to remind you again, we're really wanting to celebrate all of you. And then for our weatherization scorecard, this information is approved invoices through November 30th. For those of you that have been on these meetings in the past, we're going to go over the ACPU levels, our spending balances, our health and safety percentages, and the production count. For the network ACPU levels, DOE and WRF, right now we did not have
Okay, it looks like Michelle has frozen up, and we're just going to have to see if she can recover. Hey, Jen Bissett, are you controlling the slides?
I am not.
Okay, was she controlling? She's hosting, right?
Correct.
Okay. All right. Well, I think we're going to have to wait a minute here until Michelle. There she is. Michelle, you froze up on the ACPU level.
Okay, so so we made it through what we're going to go over there normally. If I go out again, just please let me know. I appreciate it. For the ACPU levels, this is going to be through approved invoices for November 30th. So for DOE 25 and WRF 25, we did not have any approved invoices as of that date, so it's just going to show 0 information at this point. But for our next meeting in January, we should have some ACPU health and safety and production data there. For LIHEAP 25, we are elevated, but again, we do have some flexibility there, but we try to keep it as closely as possible to that program year's allowable ACPU level. And then for IJA, we still are very elevated. This is somewhere where our project officer for DOE questions us with all of our quarterly reports and monthly check-ins. So they are watching closely. And as the grant cycle starts approaching the end, while we do still have time, it's going to be harder to bring that down. But I do want to say that it has lowered some. Last month it was 12,849, so it has decreased some, and we want to continue to see that trend of the IJA ACPU level going down. And then for our health and safety percentages, again, for DOE, we're not going to see that information for this particular slide. For LIHEAP 25, it's 0.16%. This looks very low, but the way it's calculated is on what is invoiced in health and safety amounts in comparison to what is allocated for program operations. These amounts can change throughout the program year with budget adjustments, and of course when invoices are submitted with health and safety expenses. So we are on the lower side, but that's expected. For IJA, we are up to 10.11%, which was 9.77% last month. But we are capped at 15% for DOE and IJA. And then for DOE 25, like I stated before, you're not going to see any of the spending or production on here this month, but you'll see the broken out allocations and the projected units to stay within the allowable ACPU level. For WRF, this will be the same. You'll see the allocations that are broken out and what's required to stay within an allowable ACPU level. And then for LIHEAP, you'll see the invoices that were submitted through November 30th. We do have more that are in a submitted status that you would hopefully be seeing updated information by the next month's meeting. So you'll have more information that's been updated here with more accurate ACPU levels. And then for IJA, again, we still are elevated with our ACPU levels. You'll see the agencies with the numbers in red. That's the production needed with your current funds available to stay within the allowable ACPU level. Those that have a 0 in black, those have met their production to stay within an allowable ACPU level. And as a reminder, the amendments for this funding source run through March 31st. And with that date, you should be spending the funds that are remaining in your allocations at this point, and bringing down the ACPU per our information notice 3-2025. And so we can see that it's coming down, but we still have some progress to make, and we still have a few more months to spend these funds out from our amendment date. And then for a production and monitoring goal update for IJA, with the state plan that was submitted for IJA, 4,808 units are listed, which our 30% goal to reach that milestone for the release of the final 32.8 million would be 1,442 units. With the approved invoices through November 30th this year, we are at 1,338 units. So we need 104 more units on approved invoices. And we are 92.7% towards our production goal to receive that. Again, there are multiple milestones that need to be met to have those funds released. And DOE currently is waiting to be able to approve the final 50% releases, but with our discussions with our project officers, he's very pleased with where we are at and being able to reach the milestones by the goal we had set in the spring. And our next monthly meeting is scheduled for January. This is earlier in the month than usual. We had planned that with the original implementation date with the migration. So it will be January 7th. And a meeting invite was sent out November 6th. If you need that resent to you or forwarded, please let me know. And I'm going to pass it over to Aaron for WDR repairs, but it looks like Megan has a question.
Sorry, I'm just full of questions this time around.
That's
My
okay.
apologies. So something that's come up, and we had a WAG meeting Tuesday, last week sometime. And something that came up during that meeting, and I wanted to ask a couple of questions. One is, can you or someone maybe walk through or write out how admin is calculated based on our grants? I know there's been a lot of questions in regards to admin expenses, and a lot of that I know has come from DHCD finance, but just trying to figure out like how that admin is calculated based on the grants. And I don't know if anybody else is wondering, but I think it might be helpful so we can have a good understanding. The second kind of question or suggestion or whatever, because we have been getting some feedback from DHCD Finance on our invoicing and things like that, I'm wondering if it wouldn't be helpful if someone or a couple of someones from the DHCD finance team would be willing or present maybe during one of these meetings on, when they're reviewing our invoices, what are they looking for? If there's anything that we as agencies can do to be more proactive to help the review process on the DHCD finance side be a little bit easier. I know that was a part of the conversation during the WAG meeting. And I know it's, it's hard for agencies when there's kickbacks or questions, which means there's a delay in the invoices getting processed. And I'm just wondering if that's something that DHCD Finance would be willing to kind of lay out, maybe present to us as a network, again, so that maybe we can be more proactive in, what we're providing so that there's less questions, I guess. I didn't know if that would be a possibility, or if it could be asked of DHCD Finance.
I think it's good feedback to know, and I've taken note of your question and request. I will say for weatherization, for how admin is calculated and how or what allowable expenses are, you would want to look at the program notice, the -1 we would call it for the state plan application instructions. So for DOE 25, it would be WPN 25-1, and you would specifically choose the option of the application instructions. Normally, the budget category breakdown of what DOE spells out for us is around page 20. It might be a few pages before, a few pages after. There have been questions from our fiscal, like you stated. Additionally, that they're looking at, not outside of weatherization specifically. And so when those questions get asked to us by our fiscal, we know that they're looking at it for everyone. So while they may have not asked it individually for your invoice at that point, Nicole and I would be asking anyone those same questions to treat everyone the same.
Right.
But I do think it could be helpful that while we have it laid out in a program notice of what we're expecting, that we could request that they could provide some information for either us to go over or for them to share. So we'll pass that information along. I don't know with the holidays coming up, how soon we may be able to have that, but I've taken note because it could be something beneficial just on their end. While programmatically we look for things and we're looking for financial allowability, they may have additional things that they're looking at or seeing as red flags that we may not see as easily.
Yeah, and definitely no, like, please have it right now. It's just something in the future. I think it definitely would be helpful. I don't think I'm speaking out of turn for other folks.
And it looks like Jen, you had something you wanted to add as well.
Just to provide clarification on how the admin is calculated, admin is 7.5% of your total allocation. Your allocation is determined by two factors, and it's percent poverty of the territories you cover plus the geographic size of the territory you cover. It all goes into a formula, and it spits out, how much of the percentage, you receive of the total allocation for the state based on your territory. And then we calculate 7.5% of that towards your admin. The state also receives 7.5% of admin, which is a total of 15%, which is the allowable amount that we're allowed to allocate from our total allocation for our admin. Health and safety is 15% of your program operations budget. So it is not factored in. So when I know there was some question about WRF and admin, all the total allocation is how we determine admin. So WRF is in that pot when all budget categories are included when we're calculating that admin. So every agency receives 7.5% of their total allocation for admin expenses. Hopefully, if they need any other clarifying questions, I'm happy to answer those.
Would say, Megan, 5% is still applicable for LIHEAP, because I know you mentioned that earlier. So 5%
Yes.
for LIHEAP, DOE and IJA would be up to 7.5%.
Correct. Yes.
And that's on the, I know health and safety, the percentage is based off of the program operations. The admin is based off the total award. Is that?
Total award.
Okay.
Correct.
Okay.
So your total amount awarded. We calculate how much funding would be awarded to you in total before we break it into budget categories.
Okay.
And if you want to see the WPN from where we receive our allocation, that's always program year -2.
Right.
And it'll list out the total allocation. It'll also list out the TNTA breakout and the WRF breakout, which are separate out. So like they want us to spend X amount of dollars in TNTA. That's what they're allocating us for. But it'll show the total amount. And when we calculate our admin, it's based on your total allocation.
Okay. Yeah. Sometimes it's, for me, it's like, okay, is it based off a total award? And again, trying to figure out what that numerically
I understand. That's why I
looks
just
like.
wanted, totally
Yeah.
understand, and that why people might have questions about that. So I just wanted to provide that clarifying information. And if anybody has any questions during the state plan process about what's awarded, or anytime really, you can always shoot me an email, and I'd be happy to answer those questions about those allocations.
Okay, perfect. I think that's all my questions for now. Sorry.
And I'll send the link for the WPN and how, and I can send a snip in the chat as well of how that's calculated. And then just to be mindful of the time right now, I'm going to pass the information over to Aaron, and then if we have time, we can allow for some questions as well.
Good morning. Yeah, I'll be brief because I want to get back to talking about admin. But yeah, my name is Aaron Shoemaker, and I'm the Housing Program Administrator, DHCD, that works with the Weatherization Deferral Repair Funds, WDR. And over the course of the next several slides, I will provide WDR updates / reminders, and briefly discuss data on WDR expenditures and remittances. Next slide, please. Here's the overview of the updates I'm going to provide. The first one is just that you can always check the WDR webpage on the DHCD site for the most recent WDR documentation, such as the application form from August and the August 2025 program annual update, which is the most recent one. This reminder is on every monthly presentation just because it's important to emphasize, because we do still get applications with outdated forms and remittances as well. So just a reminder to, if you've printed out like 30 copies of an old form, you can go ahead and recycle those and print out the new one. Bless you. Also, let's see. Yeah, we're going to go over the data that we usually go over for the remittances, and I'll talk briefly about the upcoming WDR CAMS training / refresher. But before that, next slide. So your WDR grant agreements, all of you are on the 2-year grant agreement that began July 1st, 2024, and it ends in 6 months, roughly, June 30, 2026. So we will be providing extensions to those grant agreements, and information about those extensions will be available closer to the date. But just in case anyone was wondering what happens next, that is what will happen next. Slide next, please. Yep, and then the next 2 slides contain the usual data updates on what WDR expenditures and balances look like based on what is in CAMS as of November 30th. And yeah, the data fluctuates each month. Sometimes it actually goes down because it's based on what's submitted, not necessarily approved, because that's just how the budgets display. But currently we have all 14 subgrantees still have an active WDR grant agreement with $14 million remaining. And not everybody has $1 million. That's just a coincidence. But yeah, if you wish to explore this data in more detail, we always send the slides out after the presentation, the same week of the presentation usually. Next slide, please. And this slide has the data for the specifics that we get from the remittances. And as of this month, I checked the data a little bit like yesterday, and we're at over 2,300 total homes served. So that's fantastic. With WDR, each of those homes has been weatherized, so that's a wonderful thing that we've done. And then we have over 1,300 single-family homes, and it's over 930 multifamily units. And then the cost has been staying consistent level with what it was last year at $21,000 per remittance on average, and that's both admin as well as the housing repairs. Without the admin, it comes out to be, I think, closer to like $18,000 of housing repairs. And then the data on the specific repair types that WDR is being used for has stayed relatively consistent, with roughly 60% of jobs having HVAC repairs and about half having roof repairs. The major change that's happened with repair types has been the other category, and I think that has more to do with the fact that we've clarified certain repair types so that they fit better under one of the other categories, since we clarified the specifics in the last update. Next slide. And this is just a little bit of information about the aforementioned CAMS WDR training, where it's going to focus on the processes of WDR that are done inside and around CAMS in order for you to get your WDR jobs approved and paid. So it's going to focus more on those processes as opposed to focusing on technical aspects or going into, it's not going to be a deep dive on the manual, but we will talk about the processes that are outlined in the manual, as well as the paperwork that you're submitting. And the target audience for this is essentially anyone who engages the WDR business processes, or just anyone who wants to know more about how WDR works from a process standpoint. So if you or your staff need an invite, just let us know and we'll get you or your staff on the Teams invite, which is set for this coming Tuesday, the 19th. Is that what the slide said? Or 16th? Tuesday, 16th at 9 a.m. Next slide. And yeah, this concludes the WDR program update. Thank you for listening. And we can get back to talking about admin if you would like. Thank you.
I don't have an admin question, Aaron. I have a WDR question.
Go for it.
So, I want to clarify. So during one of our meetings, we got some clarification that WDR would not cover a new duct installation any longer. So I want to make sure that, because it is in the operations manual, that new installations are covered by WDR. And I just want to clarify that that is no longer allowed. Because again, this came up for a particular client. We had baseboard heats and we wanted to do a heat pump. And it was discussed that WDR would not cover a new duct install, ductwork installation. And I wanted to either get clarification on that is no longer allowed, or if it is still allowed, under what circumstances would it be allowed?
So as
As
the
my-
WDR.
Mhm.
Yeah, I was sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
That's okay.
Do you have, is there a second part of the question?
No, sorry.
Oh, okay.
That's it.
So as the WDR manual is currently written, duct repair and replacement is eligible as a cost under the HVAC category. From what you're saying, I'm wondering if maybe there's some back and forth with our technical team that indicated that in this particular home, that there were other funding sources that were a better fit than going to WDR. But as the manual is currently written, duct repair and replacement is an eligible cost in the HVAC category. If you mean installation of new ducts where ducts previously didn't exist, I mean,
Yes,
fuel switching is also eligible. Having said that, I know that there's, and this, your question kind of indicates this as well, some confusion currently on using WDR for HVAC. So that's something that we're looking into how to better communicate with the network to clarify questions about. And we're having internal discussions about that as well. And I think there will be some clarification in the WDR manual about that. I mean, not to put anybody on the spot, but does anybody from the DHCD technical team have any clarifying thoughts on this situation? If not, it's okay.
Well, I'm an agency, and this is the first I've heard of that, so I'm real curious about what's going on there.
And that, Stephen, is why, because again, I guess for us, this was a situation, they had baseboard heat, and we wanted, heat can't model a new duct system. So we've always utilized WDR to put in a new duct where ducts did not exist before. And so I wanted to bring this up at the network meeting because I know other agencies have probably utilized it for those situations as well. And I guess I just wanted to make sure, time and effort wasn't spent on other preparing an application if this is not going to be allowed any longer. So again,
Megan, I'm not familiar with any electric baseboard heat being treated as a fuel switch to a heat pump.
No, it's not. Yeah, no, not a fuel switch. Okay. It was electric baseboard, and we were going to heat. Yeah. We wanted to go to a heat pump, but there was no ductwork. That would be a new
installation, and the HVAC category only addresses replacement or repair. So there's no real scope, I would say, in the WDR manual for a switch from electric baseboard heat to a heat pump and new duct installation. I would say that's really not addressed. So if it's not addressed, it means it can't be done. I'm not familiar with any being done in the past. Maybe way in the past it has been, but I'm not familiar with any of those cases. So. And I would say right now the WDR manual doesn't allow it. Yeah.
You're saying it doesn't allow it?
I would say that it does not allow it at this point, is the way I would interpret. I would if we don't prescribe it, I would assume it's not allowed.
Yeah, that clarifies my understanding of the situation a little bit better, in that switching from baseboard, if it's electric, to a heat pump is not something that we're doing with WDR, because that's the repair category and replacement categories for in-kind replacement, and the fuel switch is from going to like an inoperable oil system, for example, to generally electric.
It looked like David might have had some input that he was going to provide as well, and it may be a case where, for a particular case, there's details that we don't have to provide here. But David, did you still want to say something?
Yeah, I think his connectivity may have gone out because I heard his voice.
So I think looks like Jack has a question. We can discuss this as a team and with CHP individually as well. And I think like Aaron had stated, we are clarifying more as well with some of those health and safety or heat related expenses.
But yeah, I
Yeah.
just want to make sure that we don't get the wrong message out there. We have not changed to make duct repair replacement an eligible cost with WDR. Duct repair and replacement remains an eligible cost.
Are you saying eligible or ineligible?
You can do duct repair and replacement for HVAC for systems that have duct repair replacement that is needed with WDR.
For existing ductwork, but you can not install new ductwork where ductwork did not exist.
That's not what the manual says either.
For replacing baseboard heat, Megan.
So you
Yeah, Jack had a question
So
too.
you could do it, for example, we could approve a fuel switch where ducts are installed where they did not previously exist. That is a possibility.
So if it was an oil boiler, for example, with no ductwork, we could request for a fuel
inoperable.
switch.
That's inoperable.
That's inoperable. We could request a fuel switch for a heat pump, electric heat pump, and new ductwork could be installed and covered by WDR.
Correct. So the instances where we're seeing ductwork installed where it did not previously exist are eligible fuel switches.
Okay. Sorry, Jack. I know you've had
Right.
to.
A little bit more on this. If you're going that route, you can't split the furnace and the ductwork between WDR for the ductwork and then LIHEAP for the or weatherization for the heating system itself. That all has to be funded through the other funding source, and you reset your baselines in the energy audit because weatherization will not do those expensive duct installations and so forth. That you'll shoot your ACPU through the roof. And then in the WEP state plan and so forth, there is nothing about installing new ductwork at all.
All right. If it's all right to chime in.
Yeah.
We may
Thanks for
have
waiting, Jack.
no problem. We may have flown in under the radar here. I think we have about 5 jobs we've done this year where we were taking electric baseboards and we've installed a heat pump with ductwork. If that's no longer allowable, we will adjust. The only question I have is if we have a non-functioning baseboard in a house, can we get some clarification? Doesn't have to be today on how DHCD wants us to deal with that, because everything I've read from the SWS to the approved materials list to Energy Star says we cannot install baseboard units. If there is something that you guys have come across that contradicts that, can you please send it out to the network? For example, the SWS says if you're doing ductless, resistance heating cannot be your primary source of heat. So I understand that WDR no longer allows us to do this. I'm grateful we were able to get a few in, but I'm just curious, when we do reach these houses with baseboard heating that is not functioning, are we just deferring them?
Okay, so how to handle baseboard, non-functioning electric baseboard heat is your question. Yeah, we can respond to that. Yeah, we'll look into that.
Yeah, and I was going to say, I think Bill put, a clarifying to the network, I think would be really helpful. Because again, I know sometimes we have these one-off conversations. That's why I wanted to bring it up in the larger network. So we're all on the same page and moving forward.
And, a lot of times we have utility funds that can put in a heat pump, but we cannot do duct work. so we could braid with WDR and get a heat pump put in for just the duct work. So, I mean, it's going to limit us to being able to upgrade homes to be more energy efficient and saving the weatherization program money on the heat pump side. Just a thought.
Bill?
Yeah, I think the last thing I heard Aaron say just now is that the duct work installation could be done under WDR when fuel switching. Is that correct? Or did I misunderstand?
That's correct. So if you're fuel switching from a system that didn't have ducts because it, like the example I used was an inoperable oil system, just because that's the first bullet under fuel switch for eligible repairs. Conceivably, yes, you could install a heat pump with ducts into that home with WDR.
But is that the only scenario?
Yeah, I mean, I think we really need to emphasize if the WDR manual doesn't say it, then it's probably not, then it's not. I mean, I think we need to, now we can talk about what to add to it, but for the next round as a network, but and to emphasize David's point, it has to be modeled together as the baseline.
Yes. Okay, so the modeling thing I'm hearing, the scenario I'm thinking of, and we just had this, have a forced air, I believe I'm correct, or even if this isn't the scenario, let me present the scenario of a forced air system. However, it's only addressing one level of the house. And you want to get conditioned heating, cooling to, say, the upstairs. Is that not allowed? It's not fuel switching. Or you have a bad duct system, but you're not fuel switching, you're just trying to address the duct system. Is that not allowed?
Duct repair and replacement is an eligible cost under WDR.
That's what
under the in-kind / like for like category.
Okay, so it is allowed. That's what I mean, that's the way I've always read what now is page 10 that
For that
describes.
situation, yeah. So
just, and I know we're getting, but just so the WDR manual does say for full duct system replacement or new installations under WDR, which would lead me to believe that new duct installs would be allowed, which again, they have in the past. We have done new duct install, and it hasn't been a fuel switch. So
Right.
kind of like what Jack said. So it leads me to believe that they are allowed. Again, I think we need more conversation and some clarity surrounding this for the
I
network.
completely agree, Megan. I completely agree. We are having conversations internally about getting better clarification about when to use WDR for HVAC. This is something we talked about at our meeting on Monday as a unit. And so, your question is well timed. And we've gotten questions from the network in the past couple of weeks. And, as Jack indicates, we've had projects that have gotten approved in the past under HVAC that we're in a phase right now where we're reevaluating the use of WDR for HVAC, as well as health and safety funds, and looking at other options to better find ways of streamlining HVAC approvals and make sure that it's clearer to the network when and when not to use HVAC. So there 100% is confusion, obviously, and all these questions indicate to that. So we will be working internally to get better clarification on that. And also, I would expect to see some WDR manual updates tightening the language and making some changes along this route as well. So I very much appreciate the questions, and we'll try to get clarity as soon as possible.
Yeah, I'll emphasize what Aaron said. I think that the section you're referring to, though, had to do with the testing section, Megan. I mean, if it pertains to eligibility, then send me what you're referring to. But
Okay.
Stephen?
Yeah. Well, one thing, and I was thinking about, but I got another question, Tim, but just,
Stephen,
you know,
yeah, he had a question.
if this, you know, we got a new governor and, you know, we're thinking this auctions are going to start back. I mean, we ain't going to be able to spend this money, you know, if we keep cutting everything off. But anyway, so as far as the Mint, I had a little bit of trouble getting on there, and I'll see the recording, but I've talked to another agency. We can't even get on there. We've talked to Matt several times. He's saying it's engineering troubles, and you know, so I don't know if you've heard any about that or what's going on with that, or but we can't get on there to do anything.
Yeah, I sent an email out about a week ago because they're working on, because of the status of the new build, and we want to test out some of their closeout and invoicing functionality and couldn't do it. And you know, so I sent about a week and a half ago, I sent out an email saying, look, just avoid it for now until the sandbox build comes out, which I think he said would be the end of this week or something. So let's see when we get that. You know, each time a new build comes out, you know, we can see incrementally more that we can do. We can generate the energy savings reports on the model homes from DOE at this point, but you know, that is not really the test that we're so concerned about. Our test is not leaving you all high and dry to be able to, you know, complete a job and invoice for it. So, you know, that's why we need to do the twin operations extensively when we're at that point. And I think, you know, when we're also at a point where we've got a window to do it, and I think that window is going to be well, clearly it's not now in December. I'm thinking it's going to be more like January. So. Yeah, and yeah, to your point about the Reggie funding, you know, I think as a network, we need to be cautious there, right? The auctions may continue. The governor-elect Spanberger has said she stated explicitly that she'll rejoin, but that does not, whether or not our beloved program here is refunded in that way or not is really not something that we know, and we're hopeful. Because we like the program, but you know, we don't know that. So I just point that out.
We're operating under the assumption that $14 million is the remaining money for WDR.
And if we don't have any other questions, we'll wrap up this meeting. Just gonna see if anyone has any more. It sounds like we've asked a good amount of questions, had some feedback, so we do appreciate that. Thank you for joining our December meeting. We hope you have a nice holiday and a happy new year, and we look forward to seeing you all in 2026.
Thanks,
Thanks, everybody.
everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.